Today, I would like to introduce you to the data and the spread geographical distribution of rice and about production, productivity, and some general aspects of rice. And in certain countries, rice productivity is very high, like Australia, Egypt, some European countries, USA, etc. So we will see what are the reasons why the yields are higher in those countries and yields are lower in many Asian countries or developing countries. So just general introduction of the topic. So many times students get confused. What is the difference between rice and paddy or coarse rice, rough rice, variety of terminology is there. So actually rice paddy is a field where puddling is done, bunding is done, small bunds are made, and then water is impounded, and then it is puddled and transplanted. Such kind of fields are known as rice paddies. Rice paddy means it is a field where land is puddled, bundled, and rice is transplanted. Such kind of land is known as rice paddy, and plural is rice paddies. So let us know what is meaning by field. Field is a piece of land cleared of trees and usually enclosed. Usually it is bundled. That is the definition of a field. And if you can remember, it is one line in Urdu. Zarre zameen ka wo hissa jo kabile kaast ho. Could you get zarre zameen ka wo hissa jo kabile kaast ho? Means piece of land that can be cultivated. The simplest meaning of field is piece of land that can be cultivated or plowed and it is enclosed. So that area is called as a field. So in Japan, they give too much of importance of value to rice plant. Even the names which are quite common, you must be listening here and there. Toyota and Honda. Do you know meaning of Toyota and Honda? Toyota means bountiful rice field. Honda means the main rice field. So these big companies have honored the rice by giving name Toyota and Honda. Now, yesterday I told you what is coarse rice or rough rice. When you harvest the grains, the fresh grains or those kind of grains which are enclosed by hulls are coarse rice. You can call it rough rice. You can call it paddy grain, or sometimes you can call it coarse paddy. Coarse paddy, but it cannot be called as just paddy. Just paddy means it is a field. If it is coarse paddy, means it is rough rice. Then one more term, if you remove the husk, the outside hard layer, then it becomes your dehusked rice. Dehusked. You can also call it dehulled or husked or hulled rice. And ultimately it will give you brown rice. So these at number two point, you can see they are synonymous, exactly synonymous. Whether you call it dehusked rice, dehulled rice, husked rice, hulled rice. And you can say process as dehusking is equal to husking or dehulling or hulling. All have same meaning and which result in brown rice. Then brown rice have bran layers outside it, and if you remove those bran layers, then it becomes white rice. White rice is also called as polished rice or milled rice. And you see, brown rice is your true caryopsis. Brown rice is true caryopsis. Caryopsis does not include your husk outside the grain. Now, rice has been very important crop in the world, and International Year of Rice was celebrated in 2004 by UN or FAO. You can say Food and Agriculture Organization organized International Year of Rice in 2004, and the logo was not logo. The theme was Rice is Life, and then it is a staple food of about 2/3 population of the world. Less protein, of course, it is a deficiency of. It contains about 6 to 7% protein, which is not good because wheat contains double protein of rice, which is about 11 to 12%. And your pulses contains more than 3 times protein than rice. But still, rice is loved by people, and of course, the fat content is also low, 2 to 2.5%, and much is lost during milling because most of the fat, 75% of the fat is in bran oil, is in bran. So bran is rich in fat. So 75% of the total fat of the rice grain is present in bran. Rice bran is good source of cattle food or poultry feed, and it can be used for oil extraction. Rice bran, it is pericarp. I'll show you the structure of the rice grain later. And seed coat, nucellus, and aileron layer. All these constitute rice bran, which is generally 8% of the paddy grain weight. Bran contains 15 to 20% oil, and global rice bran oil is 1 to 1.4 million ton, of which India account for 1 million ton. Means most of the bran oil is produced only in India, which is about 1 million tons. You can see the pictures of rice husk or rice hulls on the bottom. This is how the brown rice has been removed, and then husk is left. So this husk is also useful. We will see how it is useful, what can be done with this husk. And similarly, bran. Bran is good poultry feed, good animal feed, and bran can be used to extract the oil, rice oil. You can see India produces about 1 million ton of rice bran oil annually, and potential is 9.8 million tons of rice bran oil can be produced in the country. So you can see this is picture of rice bran, and rice grain oil is liked by some people, and it is being sold in the market. And this is rice husk. Rice husk, you can see, you have seen before also. So the texture of the husk varies with the machine used. Sometimes different machinery is used, different methods are used to remove the hulls. So therefore, the texture of hulls varies from one machine to another machine. And husk can be used as a fuel. Fuel means you can burn it. Bedding material can be used for animals or somewhere else. And incubation material, it can be used as an incubation material. Incubation, you understand, a material which does not allow heat to pass. It insulates. And another use could be in the filter. One can make filters. You can easily filter water. In India, very innovative people are there, and they can use this rice hull to filter the water. So manufacturing of insulation material can be done by hulls, cement, cardboard as a litter in poultry keeping. So variety of uses are there for us. Rice straw, you are aware of rice straw. It is in news for last so many years because of rice straw burning is a problem in Punjab, Haryana, some other parts. So rice straw can be used as a cattle feed as well as litter during winter season. And rice straw can also be used for the production of manures, compost, or ethanol production. Energy production can be done. Now let us see how it is useful in medicines, Indian medicine systems. So rice products are used in medicines, particularly brown rice and rice oil. In Ayurveda, rice has been considered as acrid. Acrid means sharp to taste, irritating, pungent, oleaginous means oily or greasy, tonic means increasing the strength, aphrodisiac, fattening, diuretic, and useful in biliousness. Biliousness means pertaining to or affected with excess of bile juice. So it has uses in medicines also, Indian medicine system. And rice water, one thing is rice water, which is a decoction of rice prescribed by Pharmacopoeia of India as an ointment to counteract inflamed surfaces. Natives of Chhattisgarh use rice soils for the treatment of health problems. So this is good, and I want to share you one fact that it can treat your skin issues. I remember my own days when my grandfather will take me to the rice, the paste on my whole body, starting from head to the toe. And now these days, people are doing clay therapy or a variety of the soil therapy. What are the names? So it has some value, this in rice, in skin diseases. Early Oriental writings means Eastern writing. Natural whole grain brown rice is perfect healing food. It acts as a healing food. Treating diarrhea in children, it can be used to treat skin conditions, boils, and number of uses are there. Now we go to origin of rice and spread of rice. So as you are aware that rice is the plant of Asian origin. It originated in Asia, mostly in China, India, and Indonesia. There are three important centers of origin of rice, and 90% of the rice is grown in Asia and also produced in Asia. Domestication occurred independently in China, India, and Indonesia. So there are three important centers of origin: China, India, and Indonesia. The center of origin diversity of two cultivated species. Of course, you are aware of Oryza sativa and Glabrima. So sativa belongs to Asia and Glabrima belongs to Africa. The Mekong is a transboundary river in Southeast Asia. This river has been very, very important because in some countries, rice originated in the vicinity of this river. So Mekong River, it is the world's 12th longest river and the 7th longest in Asia. And it starts from Tibet Plateau and passes through different countries like China, Myanmar, Laos, Thailand, Cambodia, and Vietnam. So it is multinational river, you can say multi-countries river, Mekong. And most people agree that valleys of Yangtze Valley in China, Mekong River in many countries, is the center of origin of Oryza sativa. And for Glabrima, it is delta of Niger River, where it originated. And also in India, foothills of Himalayas, Chhattisgarh, Jaipur tract of Odisha, northeastern India, northern parts of Myanmar, Thailand, Yunnan province of China, other centers of diversity. So it has got several places are considered. Because rice plant is very, very diverse. It has two major cultivated species, and in one major cultivated species, you have three different subspecies. So these three different subspecies may have originated in different parts of Asia. So it was China where puddling was started and puddling was refined. They started growing seedlings and they started puddling and they started transplanting. So China is credited for transplanting method, developing transplanting of rice. So it is cultivated in India between 1500 to 2000 BC and in Indonesia 1648 BC. Archaeological findings suggest that tropical or indica rice was being cultivated in Ho Mu Tu, Zhejiang province of China at least 7,000 years ago. So it is very old crop, particularly in China. And in China, you can find tropical rice, subtropical rice, as well as temperate rice. So important food in Mohenjo-daro as early as 25 BC, Indus Valley civilization, rapidly dispersed from its tropical and subtropical habitats to much higher altitude and latitude in Asia, reaching Japan as recently as 2300 years ago. So one thing is sure that it is not originated in Japan. It is originated mostly in China and India. So you can see evolutionary pathway of Asian and African cultivated rices. Oryza sativa, Glabrima, and Glabrima evolved independently from different progenitors. Progenitors means forefathers, purvaj. The progenitor of sativa was Oryza nivara, and for Oryza glabrima, it was Oryza barthai. Oryza sativa domesticated in South or Southeast Asia, glabrima domesticated in tropical West Africa. Progenitor of Oryza sativa Asian AA genome diploid species, and similarly for glabrima African also have AA genome. Very small picture where you can see the parents or evolution of rice, both Asian rice and African rice. They originated from a common ancestor, which is Oryza perennis. You see on the top, or see on the left side now, Asian rice. It is originated in South and Southwest Asia, and you see it is Oryza rufipogon, donating or giving or contributing AA genome. And then from Oryza rufipogon, you got Oryza nivara. And it may have interacted or it may have pollinated with Oryza spontanea and then giving to Oryza sativa, AA. And it may have directly come. These are theories. So Oryza nivara may have directly descended to Oryza sativa or via Oryza spontanea. And then Oryza sativa further evolved into Indica and Japonica. Indica and Japonica. So Indica was your tropical kind of rice, and Japonica was further descended into two, temperate Japonica, or sometimes it is also called as Sinica. Sinica, and then tropical Japonica, which is Javanica. So there are three important subspecies: Indica, Japonica, and Javanica. And see, African rice, tropical rice, it of course descended from Oryza perennis, and then from that it made Oryza longistaminata, and having AA genome, and then Oryza barthai via step 5, and then Oryza glabrima. I do not understand much of the genetics. I just want to tell you the parents from which this Oryza sativa and Oryza glabrima descended or came. Now, geographical distribution, 20 species of genus Oryza have been recognized, and most of them are wild, except two, Oryza sativa and Oryza glabrima. It can grow in a wide range of water and soil regimes, from deeply flooded and landy to dry hill soils. Friends, rice is the most diverse plant species, which can grow from below sea level in Kerala to the altitude of 3,000 meters. It can be in India, it can be grown in Kashmir or Srinagar also. It can be grown in dry areas or upland kind of conditions to the flood rice, deep water rice. It can grow like a mesophyte plant, it can grow like a aquatic plant and so on. So it has very wide variety. Yesterday I have told you it has more than 40,000 varieties in the world, out of which 3,000 are in India. So it has very great diversity. I have shown you grain colors also, skin color and your brand color and so many things. And it can be grown in sandy soils, it can be grown in acid sulfate soil, it can be grown in saline soil, it can be grown in all kind of problem soils and all pH soils, starting from 3 to 10. It can grow under different pH conditions. So you will not find such a diverse or adaptable plant in the world. So it can be grown in wide range of water or soil regimes. In Asia, cultivars with resistant to aluminum toxicity, iron toxicity, submergence, they can tolerate. Submergence means the plant is inside the water. It is not exposed outside the water. It is submerged, means almost it is there in the water. That is submergence. So it can survive submergence also for a brief period. High salinity, cool temperature, high temperature, this and that, it survives everywhere. So it is grown in about 111 countries on every continent except Antarctica, extending from 50° north to 40° south latitude, and sea level of above sea level 3,000 meters elevation. or altitude. And now you see this picture. This picture is quite interesting. Please try to infer it, understand it. On the x-axis, you have different species, different conditions. And on y-axis, you have water depth. So if you see the first one, upland region does not mean that it is growing on hills. Even on hills, you can have lowlands, you can have valleys, you can have low-lying areas. So upland does not always mean the land on the high elevation. Upland means kind of land where water does not stay. Water does not stay in the soil and it is easily drained, or it is easily wasted by runoff, or it easily percolates into the soil. Means there is no standing water. Therefore, it is upland. Then shallow water regimes. Next is maybe 1 or 2 centimeter water for brief period. Then it is shallow water regime. You can see water depth is increasing. On the surface, just see on the surface, above the surface, you don't see the water. Don't see the soil. Soil is the larger area, and water you see dash area. Then see regions of intermediate water depth. Now water depth is increasing. And finally, you can have deep water regions. So it is showing the diversity of the rice. It can be grown in a soil where there is no standing water, like upland, to the flooding conditions, deep water regions. So this is to show you. All Asian countries grow rice. There is no exception in Asia. Most countries of West and North of Africa, some countries in Central and Eastern Africa, most of the South and Central American countries, Australia, at least 4 states in the United States. It is grown in Europe, it is grown in Asia, India, Asia, all continents except Antarctica. So world rice production, about 95% of the world's rice is produced in developing countries and 92% of it is in Asia. This data varies. Sometimes people say 90%, sometimes 85%. I will try to clear your confusion shortly. So we'll see the data. Now the data starts. So this is percentage of the total world rice area in different continents. Please see it carefully. So you can see the last 2 columns. Just concentrate on last 2 columns. This is data for 2016, 17, 18. So we just see the last 2 columns. Rest you can analyze later after the class. So in this case, you see the Asia is producing about 138.6 million tons of coarse rice. Remember, it is rough rice. It is not the milled rice. In India, the data is given with respect to polished rice or milled rice. However, in rest of the countries of the world and most of the countries and world, it is considered as coarse rice or rough rice yield or rough rice production. So here in Asia, it is 138.6. I'm sorry, this is not production. This is area in million hectare. So 138.6, or you can say 138 million hectare area is in rice. And in 2019, total area of rice cultivation was 162 million hectare, out of which 138 million hectare was in Asia. That means about 85% area was in Asia. And you can see sometimes it is 86%, sometimes 87%, 85%, 85%. If I take the average, it is about 86%. So you can say that 86% of the rice area is in Asia. Now see the next slide. Similarly, the production. See the last 2 columns, 677.3. This is the production, million ton production in Asia. In the world, it is 755 million tons, out of which about 90%. It can be said 90%, 89.6, 89.8, 89.6, something like that. So over years, so I can say with confidence that 90% production of rice is in Asia. Now see the yield. the yield continent-wise, you can see the yield. The highest yield is in Europe and Oceania. Oceania means your Australia, New Zealand, and some minor countries. So almost same. In Europe and Oceania, you get very high yields. And even America also have very good yields, 6.19, compared to Asia, which is the center of origin of rice, which is a major producer of rice. But productivity in Asia is low, which is 4.89 or 4.9 tons per hectare. So you can see the difference. Now see the area, quite interesting statistics about area harvested. So I'm just telling you the four major countries where area is very high. So you can see the India has very large area. So if you see the data of last 4 years, so you can say about 43.5 million hectare. On an average, if somebody asks me, what is the area of rice in India? So it is 43.5, I can say on an average. In China, it is 30 million hectare, much less, about 13 million hectare less than India. So rice area in China, you can see 31, 31, 30, 29. So I can say roughly it is 30 million hectare area in China. The next important country is your Indonesia, where you have 15, 15, 11, 10. If I take average, it may be 12 million hectare of area. And fourth important country is Bangladesh. So you can see India, China, Indonesia, and Bangladesh are the important country with respect to area of rice. Now see the production. Of course, China outweigh every country. It is 209 million tons, and before it was 212, 214, 212. So if I take the average, it may be 212. 212 million tons of rice is produced by India, by Asia, by China. And India produces at about 177. So our production is slowly increasing every year. So 177.6 million tons of rough rice. And in Indonesia, it is the third important country, 54. So you can see on the bottom, the country production, I'm sorry, on the bottom it is wrong. Please make China as the leading country in production. So China is number 1, followed by India and then Indonesia and Bangladesh. Please correct it. Now see the yield of coarse paddy. Yield of coarse paddy is highest in Australia in the world. See, the Australia has highest productivity, which is 8.77. Next important country is Egypt. Just few years back, Egypt was having the highest productivity, higher productivity than Australia. But for last 4 or 5 years, Australia has superseded this Egypt. So number 1 country is Australia, number 2 is Egypt, and number 3 is USA in the world. If I take world highest productivity, it is in Australia, followed by Egypt and USA. If I see in Asia, so China has the highest productivity in Asia, followed by Korea and Japan. You can see, and India is far behind. In India, the productivity is 4 tons per hectare, 4 tons of rough rice. However, in China, it is 7 tons, 3 tons more than India. That is why the total production of rice was much more from China compared to India. In China, you have area only 30 million hectare and giving very large production because of high productivity. So you can see this kind of data, and this is the latest data. No data beyond this 2019 is available. And now see the comparison of, as I told you, in India, we report officially milled rice in terms of productivity. Area, you can see area of coarse rice. On the left side, you have data pertaining to coarse rice or rough rice. On the right side, right table, you have data pertaining to milled rice. See, the first column is year. So in the case of coarse rice, rough rice, the years are given as 2008, 2009, 10, 11, 12, 13. But in India, we give year with respect to 2008, 9, 2009, 10, like that. So our 2008, 9 is, Indian 2008, 9 is equivalent to 2008 of world. Remember this. 2009-10 of India is equivalent to 2009 year of the world, likewise. So you can see with respect to coarse rice, see the left table, the area I have already told. On an average, we have 43.5 million hectare area in rice. Productivity currently is 177 in terms of coarse rice, and the yield in terms of coarse rice is 4 tons per hectare. Now see with respect to milled rice, the production is 116.4 million tons of milled rice and the productivity is 2.64. And you know, by we can use some factors by which we can convert coarse rice to milled rice and milled rice to rough rice. I have given you these conversion factors. Try to understand these conversion factors. They are very simple, you can understand. It has been taken by considering this milling of rice by about 2/3, 66.7, 66.7% milling. Therefore, they have taken this factor 1.49 and 0.67. Now, contribution of important rice growing states contributing handsomely towards total rice production and food grain production in India. So this is for a state. For example, Uttar Pradesh produces 15.54 million ton, contributing to 13.3% in all India rice production. And total food grain production, it is contributing 54.6. And percentage contribution in all India food grain production, 19.2. And percentage contribution of rice in food grain production of states. So you can go through this data and try to understand. Now, area in Indian states, you can see highest area is in UP. UP is the #1 state having about 5.75 million hectare. Next is West Bengal having 5.51. Remember, UP has highest area followed by Bengal, West Bengal, Odisha, and then Chhattisgarh is at 4th number. So you can see the position of different states in area of rice. And so far production is concerned, West Bengal leads in total production of the milled rice. So West Bengal is #1 in total production, UP is #2, followed by Punjab and Andhra Pradesh. You can check the data. West Bengal producing 16.2 million tons of milled rice, and UP producing 50.5 million tons of milled rice. So you can see the sequence. And then productivity is highest in Punjab, which is about 4.13 tons per hectare, milled rice. If I want to convert it into coarse rice, I can multiply it by 1.49, or simply I can say 1.5. You can say multiply, and you will get coarse paddy. #2 is Andhra Pradesh, #3 is Tamil Nadu, and #4 is Telangana. Now you see this, how much rice is grown in Kharif and how much rice is grown in Rabi season. So friends, I tell you, summer rice and Kharif rice, they are put under Kharif rice. Means Kharif rice includes summer rice plus Kharif rice or rainy rice. And Rabi rice here includes only winter rice. So therefore, in winter rice, you have one crop. In Kharif rice, you have two crops. One may be summer crop and other may be rainy crop. Other is rainy crop. So therefore, the percentage of, see the 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth column. In fifth column, it is percentage of the total production in Kharif. Suppose we produce 100 units of rice in India. So that means 87 units are produced in Kharif and only 13 units are produced in Rabi. So 87% rice in India is produced in Kharif and 13% rice is produced in Rabi season.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes?
Sir, Kharif rice is also known as winter rice. So that's why.
You don't go into that, but I will teach you that. Winter rice here means Rabi rice. This data is different. I will explain you later. You don't go into those minute things. I am giving you very rough idea about the things so that you do not get confused. So definitely I will explain what is that rice is also That rice, winter rice, is also planted in Kharif season. Do we know that? That rice is also planted, autumn rice is also planted in Kharif season. So is
Yes,
not
sir.
it Kharif rice? Here winter rice means I am taking equivalent to Rabi rice. Don't go into very strict definitions. So this 87% is Kharif rice and 13% is Rabi rice. Now see the irrigated area is, it is on an average, now we can say 60% of the rice in India is irrigated rice. Friends, this after 2015-16, no data is available for irrigated area in India. So we have updated data only up to 2015-16, beyond which no data is available about percentage irrigated area in India for any crop. So it is the latest figure. So you need not to see literature here and there. You will not see beyond 2015-16. It is the latest data for irrigated area in India, which is about 60% in 2015-16. Now, state-wise area under irrigation in rice. So see, states differ. In one state you have seen in Punjab, productivity was very high. In Tamil Nadu, in Andhra Pradesh, productivity was high than other state. So it is mainly the irrigation. The main reason is irrigated area. You see in Punjab, 99.6% rice is irrigated. In Andhra Pradesh, 96.6%. In Tamil Nadu, 95%. In Telangana, 97%. In Haryana, 100%. So you see, the states where you have high irrigated area, you will have more productivity. So irrigation has very important role in rice productivity. But you would surprise that Haryana, despite having 100% irrigated area, is not in the list of top 4, because in Haryana they are growing mainly basmati varieties. In Punjab they grow basmati as well as high yielding varieties. Haryana prefers basmati variety, therefore the productivity of Haryana state is lower. And all India basis, you see 60% of rice is irrigated. Now, why this yield gap? So friends, you try to understand why this yield gap. Whatever I am discussing here, it does not apply just to rice. You can equate these kind of reasonings for other crops also. Like if productivity of pulses is low, productivity of oil seed is low, I can use the same knowledge in those crops also. It is not very specific to rice. I will come in next slide, the things which are specific to rice, but these factors are everywhere. These limiting factors are everywhere. Physical factor like problem soils, if you grow any crop or rice in problem soils, the yield gaps will be more. Yield gap will be more, means productivity will be less. Poor water management, drought, flash floods, temperature stresses, both low temperature and high temperature stresses are not good. Biophysical factors like varieties, only 30%, 35% is the seed replacement. Good quality seed is not available. Weeds, insect pests, disease, all they add up to the yield losses, or they increase the yield gap between the highest yield and the lowest yield. Socioeconomic factors are common, like labor shortage in rice. You need transplanting, you need nursery preparation, you need harvesting, threshing, this and that. So cost benefit, farmers, knowledge, skills, etc. Institutional factors, government policies. I think these days you are listening a lot about government policies. So you should be better equipped to answer government policies, how they can influence the price, how they can influence the productivity. For example, subsidies on fertilizer. If they remove subsidy on potassic and phosphatic fertilizer, how much was the impact? Now, if they remove from urea, what will happen to the rice productivity? Naturally, farmers will use less of fertilizer, less of urea if subsidy is removed. So that means productivity will go down. So hence the government policy will affect the productivity of rice. Similarly, prices, price fixing, MSP, these all sorts of things. Agricultural credit also belong to government policies. If easy credit is available, then farmers can increase the productivity. Input supply in time, land tenure, agriculture research and extension. So these are 4 important factors that can affect the productivity of not just rice, for any crop. Now see, these are specific reasons why the yield losses occur in rice. So this study was made by Ramasamy from South India, and he has listed the factor that can reduce the rice productivity. Means he has presented the data in terms of quantity, but you don't bother about the quantity. How much is the? Just you see the first column. What these are the reasons that limit the rice yield. Simply these are the reasons that limit the rice yield. Number one, scarcity of irrigation water is very important. It can reduce the yield in all the states. Then drought can affect the yield in all the states. And then cold temperature at anthesis, it had no effect on in Andhra Pradesh or Kerala, but in other states like Karnataka, it has influence. Then lodging, all the states, low light intensity, because there may be issue in Karnataka for low light intensity, soil salinity in all the states, low fertility, zinc deficiency was not there in Kerala, acid soils, alkalinity, iron toxicity, weeds, imbalanced use of fertilizer, aged seedlings, varietal problems, and socio-economic reasons. So you can see that such factors, just you do not bother about numerical data. Just see these are the factors which can influence the rice yields or which can result in increased losses. Like lodging can result in increased losses, iron toxicity, zinc deficiency, and so on. Now, friends, we will discuss in very brief the yield of rice in Australia. It is touching about 9.9, 9.8. It also touched 10 tons per hectare, more than 10 tons in some years. You can see the data, 10.4, 9.5, 8.9. And if you take the average, it may not be, it may be somewhere around 9.8, or it can reach 10. Average can reach 10 also. So why this productivity is high in Australia? Can anyone suggest the reason why this yield of rice is highest in Australia? Anybody want to say about the reasons for high yield in Australia?
Tropical region.
Tropical region, okay, means temperature, low temperature is not a limitation there. Yeah, partly right.
Yes.
So we will see the reasons. Just you see the data in Australia. This is,
Mechanization.
yeah, mechanization. Yeah. So we'll see the important reasons. So this data is older data, 2013, 14, but I have shown you latest data also in the last. You have seen up to 2021. It is estimated. For 2020 also it is estimated. In 2019 it was 8.8, but on an average it is very high. So you see cultivated area is just 52,000 hectares. First thing is that area is very small, we can manage it very well. Second is annual production is 819,000 tons. Per capita consumption 10 kg per annum. It is very small. They don't eat rice actually. Australians don't eat rice. And then domestic use is only 15% of the total production. So what for they are doing it? They are doing it for export. 85% is exported. They are exporting to Asian countries also. Some Asian countries like Thailand import rice from Australia. But Thailand also export good quantity of rice to other countries. Average national yield is 10.7 tons per hectare in Australia. Farm gate value of industry is Australian dollar 350 million. So in their case, it is mostly business from rice export. So what happened? It has developed as an industry. They have developed the rice industry in the vicinity of the fields so that the farmers get good incentives, good prices. So they put the best efforts. So it is first thing is that it is concentrated in the Murrumbidgee and Murray valleys, very specific area of Australia. Australia is very big country, but they grow rice only in very small area, a small piece of land confined to these two valleys, Murrumbidgee Valley or Murray or Murray, whatever it is. So what is there? It is a flat land. Clay-based soils means soils suiting to rice. Availability of water is assured. Development of storage and milling infrastructure. This is there. Well-organized industries, export and marketing is there. So it has been linked directly to the marketing. Use 50% less water than the global average because they have varieties. They have developed good varieties and practical varieties. It is not in our case, sometimes people claim, plant breeder claim that this variety will give you 10 tons yield, but it does not give you even 5 tons yield. So sometimes we are not sure about our technologies, and our claims are refuted. Our claims does not hold true many times. So anyway, but their claims hold true. So use 50% less water, and they have varieties and best management practices. They are following best management practices, Australian Rice Check Program. This is very important program which was started in 1986. This Australian Rice Check Program. It is kind of extension program which was launched in Australia and adopted by some other countries like Vietnam also. So it was a set of practices that should be adopted by the farmer for cultivation of rice. It was Australian Rice Check. So it was started in New South Wales state, New South Wales Department of Agriculture, and they developed Rice Check program. So under this program, what they did, they developed the semi-dwarf varieties. Farmers will themselves monitor and check the crops to see how their crops compare to the measures for high yields. Ongoing extension program, it is continuing. Created a learning culture because extension worker will go and meet the farmers, convince the farmer and help the farmers. And commercial agronomists and the rice industry. So there was an interface of 3 people, scientist, industry, and extension worker. So actually what is there inside? What are the practices in Rice Check program? So initially they identified only 7 practices, but subsequently they have made them 9. So now there are 9 technologies or 9 points under Australian Rice Check program. Number 1 is that you have to prepare a good layout with a land formed, even grade between banks and well-constructed banks of a minimum height of 40 centimeters. Means well-leveled fields and embankment of the land so that water losses are not there. So on time, right time during the ideal window for each variety. There should not be any deviation in time of sowing or planting. Achieve 200 to 300 plants per meter square, established in standing water to ensure uniform establishment over 100% of crop area. Apply only registered or approved pesticide to control weeds and insect pests to prevent economic yield. They have recommended certain set of pesticides. Only those pesticides will be applied by the farmer. They cannot apply by seeing the name of the pesticide on the Facebook. Many times farmers, they see the name of the pesticide on Facebook. I think you understand what is happening on the Facebook or social media. Suppose I belong to X company and I produce a particular pesticide or insecticide. And a person will put his field problem on the Facebook or social media that my rice is suffering from this problem and these are the symptoms on the leaf. So all the business people will put that this medicine, this chemical will work against this problem. Whether it is disease by fungi, they will put their insecticide. Okay, buy this insecticide, I recommend this insecticide. So such kind of fraud are being done with the farmers, with the people. So that should not be done. Many times extension agencies and scientists also get confused and they recommend the wrong medicine or wrong chemical, wrong pesticide to the farmer. So that way they have ensured that this is the list and from this list only you have to use the pesticide. If we use wrong pesticide, there will be loss from 2 points of view. One is that you are spending on the pesticide which was not required. Number 2, you are spending on the pesticide which can never control that disease or problem because it was not meant for that. So apply only registered or approved pesticide. This is important. Apply sufficient nitrogen, and they have given different timing, different doses, quantity of nitrogen. Apply this nitrogen variety-wise. They have prepared the recommendations. and top dress the nitrogen by using latest tools like near infrared analysis, NIR tissue techniques are available. Right in the field, you can test nitrogen. Apply 20 to 25 kg P per hectare pre-flood where the Colwell phosphorus is below 20 ppm. Colwell is scientists, they named it. Achieve PI before 10th January. Panicle initiation should come. You should manipulate your variety in such a way that panicle initiation is before 10th January so that it will coincide with the best temperature for pollination and fertilization. Achieve a minimum water depth of 20 to 25 centimeter during the early pollen microphase. Means during reproductive phase, there should not be any shortage of water. So Egypt also had very high productivity so that we can also learn from Egypt. The main reason Egypt, they have the best cultivars were developed, mostly they were hybrids, high-yielding varieties, and they also use very exhaustive, very consistent and very cohesive extension program. So it was mainly extension program and development of varieties and also certain natural conditions. In Egypt, they received the right amount of light and right quantity of light. Light intensity, the best light intensities are received by the rice crop. Therefore, due to natural reason and also due to effort of the extension agencies, plant breeders, they could achieve very high yields. So this is in India, you can see the yellow one, these are the traditional rice growing areas. No, not tradition, sorry. These are rice growing areas in the country you can see Punjab, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh, Western UP, Delhi, etc. These are not the traditional rice growing area. Traditional rice growing areas are Assam, Bihar, West Bengal, Odisha, and so on, up to Tamil Nadu. So these are some traditional and non-traditional rice growing areas. So you can go through the meaning of irrigated rice. Today I told you about 60% area of rice is irrigated. So what is meant by irrigated area? Please go through the definitions I'm giving you in next 2 slides. Just read them and you will try to understand. If you don't, tomorrow I will explain. Then what is irrigated area? So net irrigated area and gross irrigated area. You try to understand this. And finally, India has 1.27 billion population. India accounts for just for 2.4% of the world's geographical area and only 4% of its water resources. 17% of the world's human population is in India and 15% of the livestock. Too much pressure of livestock and population. And food grain and production covers the dominant part of the crop area. 65% area in India is devoted to food grain production, that is cereals and pulses. India is the world's largest producer of millets and second largest producer of wheat, rice, pulses. The cereals occupy about 54% of the total cropped area in the country. Country produces about 11% cereals of the world and ranks third in production after China and USA. About 3,000 varieties in India, varieties of rice. 1/4 of the total cropped area in the country is under rice cultivation, that is 44 million hectare. India is the second largest producer and consumer of rice in the world and account for 22.3% of the global production. Rice cultivation in the irrigated area of Punjab, Haryana is introduced in the 1970s following the Green Revolution. Differences in coarse rice we discussed. I explained you rough rice, coarse paddy, dehulled hull. Byproducts we discussed the use of bran, use of straw, how they are important. 1 million ton rice bran oil is produced in India. Husk is used for fuel, bedding, incubation material. Role of rice in Indian medicines, Indian traditional medicines we discussed. Skin diseases and a variety of culture civilization we discussed. Rice originated in Asia and East India through Myanmar, Thailand. Rice is a semi-aquatic plant in 111 countries, 50° north to 50° south latitude, 3,000 meter above mean sea level. And area is highest in India, followed by China, Indonesia, Bangladesh. Asia produces more than 86% rice. And production is highest in China, India, followed by Indonesia. Asia consumes roughly 90% of world rice. Productivity highest in Australia, Egypt, USA. In Asia, China has highest productivity, Korea and Japan, and in the continent level, Oceania, Europe, America. Yield gaps, in some places you have less productivity, in some cases you have high productivity. It is mainly because of climate, varieties, soil management, biotic, abiotic stresses. Why yields are high in Australia, we have seen, and area in India, 43.5 million hectare, production in India, 116.4 million ton of milled rice, and conversion factor, milled rice, coarse paddy into 6.67, you get the milled rice. So one more thing I want to tell you that in Australia, if you want to grow the rice, you need to take the license from the government, permission from the government. And government will also ask you to apply the fixed quantity of water. Your amount of water will be restricted, that you cannot apply more than this quantity of water. So many restrictions. In India also, certain crops are grown only after getting permission from the government, getting license, like opium or tobacco. These are licensed crops. But in Australia, they also give license to grow rice. Coarse paddy, you want milled rice into 1.496. And India rice productivity is 2.64 tons of milled rice or 4 tons of coarse rice. Kharif rice contribute 87% and Rabi rice 13%. Area is UP highest, West Bengal, Odisha, Chhattisgarh. Milled rice, highest production is in West Bengal, productivity highest in Punjab, 60% rice irrigated. You can see state-wise irrigated area. Thank you very much. You can stop recording. And if one or two quick questions are there, you can ask now. If you have any other